Sehr gut. Sehr gut.
I'm a time traveler from the year 2025, and I've come here to kill you, Hitler.
Oh, not again. I'm never gonna have enough time to finish these paintings with all of these time travelers trying to kill me.
Well, I'm going to succeed.
Before you pull the trigger, can I just ask why? Why do all of you people want to kill me?
Isn't it obvious? I'm a progressive, a liberal, a fighter for social justice. And you are a fascist who implemented a reign of terror. And while the effects of your policies devastated the world for decades, soon we will be able to take back the White House, and we will be able to use the government to force people to follow our great ideas.
You want to use government power to force your ideas on the populace. Me too! That's fantastic!
What? No. Ugh. You and I have nothing in common. What I'm saying is there are people in our time with dangerous ideas, and we need to silence them.
Silencing those who disagree with you. I do that too! Oh, wunderbar! Oh, the Nazi movement will not die with me.
Don't give me that! I'm enlightened, and you're as bad as... well, as Hitler. Listen, what I'm trying to say is we are very close to implementing a utopia, as long as we can get rid of some certain undesirable people groups.
Yes, like the Jews.
Yes, like the Jews. Oh.
So, in the future,
Oh.
you also do not like the Jews?
Well, no. But we don't believe in segregating all the races like you do. I mean, except for, like, graduation ceremonies. In dorms. And hiring practices. Oh, and admissions policies. That sort of thing.
I, too, am a fan of the segregation. I'm sorry, I have to ask, is this a real firearm, or is this some kind of toy for kinder?
It's a flare gun. I'm trying not to support America's toxic gun culture. I'm a firm believer in gun control.
Gun control! This was one of my ideas, too. Ban them from the undesirables. Yes, look here. Oh, and your shirt. This is an organization founded by Margaret Sanger. Yes?
Wait, you know about Margaret Sanger?
Jawohl, of course. Oh, she's such a lovely person.
No. She's a fighter for reproductive rights, for women's empowerment,
And the eradication of undesirable populations by means of eugenics. Brilliant lady, very inspiring. I must use some of her ideas in our socialized healthcare system.
Socialized healthcare? That's not your thing. That's our thing.
No, it's very much my thing. Did you know that Nazi means National Socialist German Workers' Party? Nazi is just more catchy. Nazi. Just rolls off the tongue.
No. This can't be true. This has to be some sort of mistake. We are nothing alike. You're Adolf Hitler, evil right-wing fascist dictator, and I'm a feminist restorative justice advocate. And a vegetarian.
You're a vegetarian? Me too!
Okay, I am so confused right now. I came here with a clear goal in mind to kill the most evil man who I've ever lived. Besides Ronald Reagan. But now that I'm meeting you in person, you're not at all what I thought you were. And your painting is actually really good. What do you call it?
I call it Ein Reich ohne Juden.
Wow. I don't know what that means, but it sounds beautiful.
It does, doesn't it?
Hey guys, welcome to the program. Will you do me a favor? Will you please? Tickle that like, that share, that follow, that subscribe to the program. We're going to be covering some indictments, some arrests that have been, charges have been filed regarding fixing things in our elections. And that's what most people want. They want to see people charged, right? They want to see them charged with crimes. And I'm going to want you to pay attention, because I'm going to ask you if you can write down what led to these individuals being charged, but more importantly, what even got it under investigation by authorities to begin with. Now, it's going to be part of a connecting the dots. I'm going to have to connect all the dots for you. So you're going to want to stay with me as I do this, because I got to take you through the process. Remember, my job is to make you the smartest patriot in the room. You cannot defend against the nefarious activities if you do not understand how they do it to you. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. And so since you fingered me, and well, we know now your finger's working, how about finger your way over to JovanLovesGold.com? I do it with my partners at Goldco, because part of making you the smartest patriot in the room is you've got to understand how gold and silver can help you CYA. See, now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver. All I'm asking you to do is to request your gold and silver kit today, because I'm telling you, the digital changeover is coming. It cannot be stopped. The digital changeover is in fact coming. I worry about that when this happens, our government, whichever one we have, is going to say, we got to make an adjustment to make this work, and you're going to lose a certain percent of your money right off the top. Imagine, some people say it could be 30 cents, 32 cents on the dollar. Imagine looking at your checkbook right now, right? Figure out whatever money you've got, take 30% away, gone, boom. You can't get it back, and you can't fight it. There's going to be an adjustment like that happening. Okay, so please, 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 just get yourself educated. Go to JovanLovesGold.com. And by the way, especially if you have a 401k, retirement savings account, IRA, you're going to have to understand how this works. It's your money, and you just don't want them taking it from you. Please go to JovanLovesGold.com, and you might qualify to get up to $10,000 in free silver. Now, as part of today's program, you're going to see some of the direct connects. I just want to remind you, we had this crap happen in 2020 where Biden gave us and the world the big FU. That's that middle finger there. They want us to believe that Obama, the rock star, the messiah of the Democrat Party, got 69 million votes, and he was the top. Then his second term, he got 65 million votes. Then Hillary was just as efficient as Obama running against Trump at 65. And then Biden supposedly got 81 million. And then Kamala, at election time, got 68 million votes. That's not the problem. The problem is that little FU finger sticking up. They're closing the gap. I've showed you this before. This is a May 21st, 2025 number, and you see they've already raised Kamala up to 74,749,891. And just a few weeks ago, I checked it again. They've added another 226,000 votes to her. How can that be? Are the machines running this whole time? No. So in today's program, I'm going to delve into exactly how this happens and what you need to pay attention to. You're going to want to share this program, okay? It's a very important educational piece. So share this program right now. We'll get started in a few. By the way, I got a video for you if you want to understand, well, kind of how parties and votes work and what happens with which ones you get in. Take a load of this.
Explaining all political ideologies using goats. If you have 2 goats, the government will take one and give it to your neighbor. That's socialism. If the government seizes both goats and assigns you to milk them for 2 cups daily, that's communism. And if you get to keep your goats, but the state decides what they eat when they're milked, and how much milk you must surrender for the glory of the state, that's fascism. If soldiers from across the border seize your farm, plant their flag, and charge you protection in milk from goats that are yours, that's imperialism. And in democracy, the government swears the market is free, while Goat Corp, the company that funded its campaign, gets subsidies so massive, your small farm never stood a chance.
Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County Full Forensic Audit Archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now.
Warning. The following program has been rated Gilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians, the elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media, and the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd? Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, JovanHuttonPulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, JovanHuttonPulitzer.
Okay, guys, in this crap session, when we shoot the crap, I want you to take some notes, because a fake voter registration scheme has been exposed and 7 suspects have actually been charged. Now, this is a big deal. The operative word here is charged. I know when you look at our elections, you want people to be charged. I'm going to remind you of a few things. You know, you don't have to steal votes if you can convince people their votes don't or won't be counted. I'm going to say that again. You don't have to steal votes if you can convince people that their votes won't be counted or won't count at all. You don't have to do it. Now, the reason I tell you this, if we were to go back to all the 2020 crap, and you were looking in Georgia when Herschel Walker was subsequently running, I had one of my dearest friends in the world, an incredible, badass, pint-sized patriot, And she fought her ass off in Georgia working to fix these elections. However, she was convinced through the work of Lynn Wood, remember him, that let's all protest and don't vote to show the system we're not going to vote on their damn machines. I tried to counsel her through it, and she actually abstained from voting. Her excuse was, we can't vote on these machines. They're not going to count our votes. So let me ask you a question. Isn't that exactly the same as adding votes, stealing votes, putting in blank ballots? Of course it is. So I want you to be keenly aware of how all of this is done, because their end game relies on many different philosophies. There's many different tactics. There's not just one. But if they can convince you that don't bother to vote, it's not going to count, and you say, oh, what do you say?
I don't give a fuck anymore, a fuck anymore, a fuck anymore. I don't give a fuck anymore, a fuck anymore, a fuck anymore.
Well, they hope you take that kind of attitude and just say, to hell with it. Well, see, that's the same rig. Now, I personally believe we're caught in this rinse, cycle, repeat war over voting. And we have a uniparty. Both parties partake in it. Both parties cheat. Both parties have their operatives. Both parties have their messages. Both parties spend as much money as they can to stay in power so they can get as much money as they can and enrich themselves and then claim they're heroes. That is the sad truth of how it works. That's just it. Okay? So as I go through this today, and I tell you this story, and because you've been wanting, I mean, come on, admit it, you've been wanting people to get their butts arrested for doing nefarious things. What I need you to pay very close attention to, if you want to learn, and I was thinking about this yesterday. When I look across what I call the election integrity landscape, I think the election integrity landscape has backed off. I'm just telling you as I see it. I monitor all the posts, we monitor all the keywords, we monitor all the organizations that are working in election integrity. And if we were to look at their posting and we were to look at their work, everybody's kind of backed off. And that back off directly ties to all of us finding out in court, at a court trial, by jury or whatever, right, that the PCAPs that the whole world was promised were never had. They never existed. From that moment, it was like a gut punch. It was the breath was knocked out of election integrity. And I've been watching this. And even though the breath was knocked out, we kind of got this revival of, it's the machines. And obviously you understand if Biden did this and you got sold all that time, it was the machines, why is Kamala scooting up millions and millions and millions of votes after the machines? And it's because it is the paper that really does it. And that's why I'm going to have you soberly look at some of this. So with that said, I'm going to share with you a story. Now, it's been going on not quite a year. And you got to ask yourself, okay, it's been almost a year since the election of 24. How does Kamala Harris keep on getting votes, and getting votes? It's because Folks, it's not because the elections are being run. It's not because of any of that. It is because it is all, whether you like it or not, it is all 100% about the paper and the systems. But if you go back and look at all the court cases, they were all fought over. It's the machines, and every one of them died. So how is it that people can be charged, arrested, or indicted? And that's what I'm asking you to be aware of in this as we go through this story. So this particular story comes out of Pennsylvania. Now, when I give you certain states, okay, you might also write these down, okay? You might also write these down when I mention the states, because I think you will find a very interesting connection. It's always the specific swing states that swing us. So in Pennsylvania, 7 people have been charged with creating fake voter registrations. Let me say that again. 7 people have been charged with fake voter registrations. Now, you just heard me say Pennsylvania, and that's why you're going to want to hang to the end. I'm going to show you how it's all done, and I'm going to show you how they get the money back and forth to get people actually to do this, okay? So what happened is in Pennsylvania, getting ready for the 2024 election, they found out that canvassers were falsifying voter registration. Now, let me ask you a question. It's just a pop quiz. You put it in freaking chat. If, in fact, the machines change and or insert the vote, why do they need to insert fake voter registrations? Can you put it in chat? If, in fact, it's just the machines that insert fake votes or change the votes, why do they need to do fake voter registrations? They need 2 things. They need the paper to match the vote, okay? They need an origin story of that vote and the legal right to even print that piece of paper called the ballot. What I'm telling you is all of the crimes happen before the act. That probably sounds familiar to you because it's exactly the way magicians do their act. Before they do the reveal, here's the results. When you think they did that instant magic, they actually did it minutes ago, backwards in the act, when you were razzmatazz with all the squirrel chasing, pointing, and whatever, while this hand over here is doing the real trick and you're watching them do this. It is no different in elections. So I'm telling you, it's not about election day. It's about the build-up act and the prep work they do, period. Now, in this particular instance, what happened is they found out that these canvassers would create fake voter registrations. And an interesting little twist to this, they found out the actual canvassers hired actually had criminal backgrounds. And remember, when they register people to vote, they get their social security numbers. Right? They get their social security numbers. Why would they let criminals do that? Because the system requires and depends upon what? The criminals. It's run by criminals, it's staffed by criminals, and they need that criminal element. That is how it works. So basically, these canvassers, they go knock on doors. They got the little clipboard and stuff. Ma'am, are you registered to vote? Has a canvasser ever come, by the way, has a canvasser ever come to your home? Put it in chat. I've never, ever, at any time in my life, any home in my life, anywhere, have had a canvasser come to the door. Have any of you? Right? Have any of you? I keep on seeing never, 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 never. And combination, and I hope they don't. So that's the first thing. If this is a big phenomenon, and you guys are voters, and you live at all kinds of different places, why have you never seen a canvasser? I've never seen a canvasser. Isn't that interesting? Well, as we go into this story, here's what happened. It seems that these canvassers turned in bulk's the key word, bulk voter registrations in Pennsylvania. When they started diving into it, they found out that the canvassers actually had a quota in order to get paid. It wasn't people getting paid to go knock on doors. It wasn't. See, that's simple. You're going to knock on a door. You're going to talk to somebody. You're going to ask them if they've been registered to vote, right? And if they haven't, you're going to help them through the process. That's kind of an informational public service. However, they found out that these canvassers, and just wait, it's going to get really deep, that these canvassers have an actual quota that they've got to meet every day they're out. And by the way, if they don't turn in enough requests, meaning voter registrations, they don't get paid. They get fired. Now, this particular battleground was Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania accounts for 9 electoral votes. It's one of the big kahunas, right? So what happened, and you've heard this term before, these groups were working low propensity voters, or areas where people didn't normally turn out, right? And so if you think about they've got a quota, what becomes the incentive to get paid? Yeah, they don't want people just walking around neighborhoods, sitting at a coffee shop and saying, I was out for 10 hours and damn, nobody wanted to vote. No, that's not what it's about. What they want is those registrations to come back. So in this scheme that got exposed, when these voter registrations came back, and it was professional canvassers, professionally organized teams to get new registrations, not only did they find they were effective, but they found they always came in very large batches. Now, don't think I'm talking about 10 or 20 or 30 or 40. That would be a big batch. How about thousands? Any of you have ever worked elections, a big batch of voters coming in your precinct might be 10 or 20, right? We're talking thousands. Now, when some aware people who weren't conned by, it's the machine, we got it all, we're going to show it all. Promo code, suffocate. Anyway, county election workers that care about their elections noticed, you've heard me say this before because I noticed it in some legal cases, noticed that, damn, these things tend to be in the same handwriting. And damn, a big bulk of them tend to have the same date. So does that mean you had a bad day, mild day, low day, bad day, big bahuna day? And everybody's across these people all had the big rally day, They all had the same day. Was something in the air? Was something in the water? So looking at those physical facts of evidence, when they noticed, hey, we keep on seeing the same handwriting. We keep on seeing the testament, where somebody has to sign, I witness it. Those look the same. And across all of these canvassers, damn, they all have super mega days on the same super mega days. So Pennsylvania did what was right. They took no advice from Cause of America or the Lindell Cruise or whatever. They didn't take any of that advice. They said, we got to look at these things. Now, I want to remind you why I say that. Because one of the things that happened between 2020 and 2024 is all kinds of supposed election experts were put on the road, promised to save elections, and here's the advice that people paid for getting these people on the road. Now listen to this advice.
So you have a centralized statewide voter roll that's on networked machines, servers. It has a public-facing internet interface. That's it. That's all I need to know that it's blown. That's a centralized statewide voter roll that was mandated by Help America Vote Act. They have these all over the country. And it's not just that you have a public-facing internet interface to it, but multiple organizations have what's called an API, or an application programming interface. In other words, a machine-to-machine interface into that voter roll. And I'm telling you this because when people say, well, we have to clean up the voter rolls, it's true that they're not following the law. It's true that they're not in good faith maintaining them in accordance with Title 52 that requires that the voter rolls be both secure and accurate. That's a requirement imposed on the secretaries of state who've received the Help America Voting Act and CARES Act funding to maintain those voting systems. What nobody's going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you, is you cannot clean those rolls. You're sweeping a dirt floor. Those things can be changed in microseconds, and they are changed in microseconds, and we've got proof of that happening in multiple states where voters are...
Okay. So here's the expert advice brought to you by MyPillow. Don't worry about the voter rolls. Thankfully, people across the United States of America have now learned enough about our elections. They have stopped thinking about it as the day of and started thinking about it, how does it come into the system? Now, I want to remind you, every state was present. Election officials, county officials, all this other stuff was present, being told by the heroes of election integrity, don't bother with the voting rolls. Well, luckily, people in Pennsylvania said, I don't buy that crap. So they started looking about how all of this comes in. You got to remember, I'm a big proponent of immediately trash the voter rolls. I had this discussion with President Trump for 96 minutes. Most people get to see him 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. We're talking 96 minutes. And he basically said, Jovan, well, I can't trash the voter rolls yet. What can we do? And I'm explaining it. I'm saying, that's where the ammunition is, sir. And if we can get that ammunition out of the gun, we can knock this crap off. Little bird chirped up in that meeting saying, well, we're told don't bother with the voter rolls because they'll just put them back in. Well, yes and no. Remember, when you get rid of the voter rolls, you shut everything down. That means all of these little BS APIs, software programs where people can write to the voter rolls, all of those are shut down. Every one of those are shut down. And if you start at that 0, you get valuable information because when it comes back online to do it, you have a mandate. You have to see all of the organizations that tap in. Evidently, people can't think that far. And I'm saying, sir, we got a problem. You know, you're now even hearing Judicial Watch say their numbers believe there's over 20 million bad on the voter rolls. they got that number from our team and our research of how to find it. And as you can see here, they make them up in the wash, right? So they're trying to cover the big Biden FU by making the voters legit. Please understand, we knew they were there with the Biden FU. So you would think it'd be easy. Well, you go find all those people and you grab them. No, you got to understand they had 4 years, which were now probably 32 million bad on the voter rolls, thanks to all the illegals in. But what they do, they drop them into the system. They use it to get to where it is. And then over the following years, which is why you see Kamala raised, they have that BS voter that they put in, vote again, like in a county referendum or a bond or a midterm or the 2 years or whatever. They do that. So now at a later date, because you don't pay attention to the voter rolls, they're sweeping a dirt floor. When you finally do look back at them, it looks like that's a legit voter because they voted again and again in these other elections. So this is how they take what is blatantly fraudulent. As a countermeasure, they have them vote more times. And if you're just doing a cursory look, it looks legitimate. Well, thankfully in Pennsylvania, people noticed this troubling pattern because the signatures were the same, the dates were the same. And it is that looking at all the data, not some proclamation, I'm a tech guy and that's no good, because it's idiocracy. When they noticed that and they went back to those, wait a minute, I've seen this signature before, where you've heard that. We've told you for that team. I've seen this signature before. They looked across everything. Wow, all of these people, all of these canvassers spiked on the same days. Remember, it's all in the data. You look over everything. And for the full forensic audit in Arizona, we went back 16 years to understand what was happening. Look how much grief we caught over that, of people saying, well, that's just public information. They're not doing any audit. Well, that's somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. You got to go back at the history to understand the rhythm, so you have something to measure against in the event you're trying to understand at the event of what's going on. Well, thankfully, people did that. Here's what they found. In all of those registrations that had the same commonalities of these weird incidences and weird spikes. Now, what this is called, I call it, I developed this for archaeology research, but I call it bopping, B-O-P, bopping. It's called the balance of probabilities. Now, here's how it works for Lady Justice. You know, the scales of justice? You're waiting for that scale to tip one way or the other. That's why it's a scale. If it tips this way, then you have the balance of probabilities says this happens because it's weighted more. But you also use that as a way to understand what you're looking at. So if you took everything independently, well, these signatures look the same. Well, they all had bulk registration drops. Well, it looks like even the forms filled out the same. Oh, wait a minute. All of them had spikes, meaning bigger numbers, on the same day. See, those could be looked at separately as coincidences, but when you see the repeating of the coincidence, then what you have to understand, it is the bulk of coincidences that keep on happening that allows you to zero in and target where the crime actually happens. And in that case, the bopping, the balance of probabilities show, man, you can't have all these coincidences. So look a little bit harder, because this is where it is. You've kind of circled it. And then that's what they found. Okay. That's what they found. Enough on that one. They basically could understand it was related to a company. It was related to canvassers. It was kind of all the same thing. So here's what happened. Pennsylvania, they narrowed down, okay, who's doing this work? And now I'm going to get into it. They basically charged 7 individuals. Now this is where it gets really interesting and really hairy. Again, I'm going to throw out to you a bunch of coincidences. If these coincidences sound familiar to you, right? I'm just going to tell you, isn't that a coincidence? If these coincidences sound familiar to you, seem repeatable, I want you to think, wow, there must be something there. Okay. So it all got narrowed down by looking at all the data and not sweeping it under the rug. It basically found out there was a fellow by the name of Guillermo Sanz that was, quote unquote, the lead canvasser or the lead service provider of all of these people that were on the streets collecting votes. Now, this fellow, Guillermo, is 33 years old. And he's all across all the Pennsylvania hotbeds. So they've narrowed it down to a guy. So Guillermo isn't Amish. He isn't even Pennsylvanian. Just start marking down coincidences, would you please? Guillermo is from Sierra Vista, Arizona. Mesa County, Arizona. So my little radar goes, wow, what the hell is a guy doing canvassing work? Usually canvassing's volunteers. What is a guy doing canvassing work? And we find out he's a hired professional canvasser. And he is from Arizona. Just so you know, these fake registration information, each one carries a fine of $500 and imprisonment of not less than 1 month or both, just so you know. Okay, so that's kind of the thing. So now you look into this Guillermo Saints, or however you say his name, and you kind of start doing this track down. Okay, who is this guy? Why is somebody from Arizona, right? Why is somebody in Arizona professionally canvassing in Pennsylvania? Well, it comes down to his company. And now I'm going to start giving you connective pieces. Okay? So this Guillermo Saints or Sands or Scenes or whatever, if you were to look at his LinkedIn, which, by the way, you can't do because this company has rapidly scrubbed everything, or so they thought. Guillermo works for a company called Field Plus Media Corp. Field Plus Media Corp. Now, remember, this is in the thousands of registrations. And this group, Field and Media Corp, has now worked, now that the charges have been filed, has now worked to scrub everything you could possibly find about this company. And yes, technically, these fake registrations a slap on a wrist. But when you understand that when it comes to the machines, all of those are voluntary and you can't get anything anyway, I'll take this one. But I'll take this one because it helps America understand. So what I did is I start chasing down this Guillermo, who is out of Arizona. And I'm thinking, well, what are the odds of that? What are the odds that Guillermo is a resident of Maricopa County, Arizona? I'm going, wow. Can this be a coincidence? This is where you're going to start kind of making little tick marks like we're playing Yahtzee. We've got a swing state, 1 tick mark. We've got the battleground counties in that state that they need to make sure the Republicans don't continue in, number tick mark, right? Then you find out the head guy is not just a volunteer canvasser. This is a bought and paid guy. That's a tick mark. Then you find out he's from Arizona. And then you find out, holy smokes, he's from Maricorruption County in Arizona. So we start digging. Okay? Now, I'm going to now just give you connective tissues. I'll let you do your own homework, but I'm going to share with you things that I believe you need to know. First off, if you look at the company Field and Media in their website, which is now scrubbed, it basically says the bulk of their work is Arizona, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and California. Arizona, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and California. So again, now that's interesting. That's all of these questionable places with questionable practices. So we look deep into this guy. Well, it just so happens he's like the vice mayor of the city of Mesa. He's a council member. He's in politics. And he came up through politics by being the community relations business manager in Maricopa County Recorder. And before that, he was with an activist organization. He was the field director. Let's think about this. Wait, he was a field director to get votes. Then somehow he gets into the Maricopa County Recorder's office. I want you to pay attention to the dates. Every bit of little bitty information means something. And so he gets moved from an activist organization that really ramps up in 2016. Okay, well, what else happened in 2016? Well, we got Donald J. Trump as president, totally kicked the dog poo-poo out of Hillary. So I want you to keep in mind that 2016 window, okay? Actually, when people knew he was going to be the candidate, 2015, and then, of course, he gets placed in 2016. So you're going to look at that window and see if those dates keep on coming up in my conversation with you. I find it interesting that this guy that was canvassing is not only active in politics in a city that has very serious problems, and probably the most corrupt county in the United States of America. And I want to remind you, Maricopa County, where we did the full forensic audit, it's the only time in history every single ballot cast got to be audited, right? Only time it's ever happened. To put it to you in scale, if you were to go back and look at the Hanging Chad incident of the 2000s, you know, that 40, 50,000 ballots. This was 2 million ballots. See all those boxes in the background? Okay. Maricopa is unique because it's the 4th largest county in the United States of America, but it's the 2nd largest voting block of people in the United States of America. In fact, Maricopa is bigger than the voting base of most states. Okay? What are the odds that the guy that's running canvas teams all across the country is not only an active politician in that county, but he comes right out of the Maricopa County office? What are the odds of that? Is that a coinkydink? Now, they tried to scrub everything, and they didn't do it well. But in the scrub, you can find their people. Now, ironically, they say they're a data-driven team, that they use data to find out where the low propensity voters are, et cetera, et cetera. Well, number one, they don't have a single person on their team that's data-oriented. Now, this is the stuff they tried to hide. Okay? All of these people crisscross between nonprofits and the media. All of these people have a crisscrossing background between nonprofits and the media. Now we're going to start putting some numbers to this, okay? And remember, what I'm doing is, in Pennsylvania, there's been a crackdown. They exposed a fake voter registration scheme. There are 7 suspects charged. Okay. Now we're going to look at a moment in time only, just a moment in time. So we now know somehow Pennsylvania has this weird connection to Arizona and Maricopa County. Somehow Pennsylvania has this weird ass connection that not only goes to Maricopa County, goes directly to the county recorder's office, which manages the elections. Now, if we were to look at their numbers, which they have subsequently started hiding and scrubbing everything, just prior, right, to all of them trying to scrub everything, here's what they said their reach was just prior to the 2024 election. They claimed that their people in that little bitty office, that they knocked on 3 million doors. Out of the 3 million doors, they also made 2 million calls. They sent 2 million individual texts, and that they had 100+ successful campaigns. They say it's data-driven. Again, not a single person in their organization has any data experience. Now, I ask you, do you remember who I exposed that was supposedly using data to make sure they found voters and scrubbed voters and cleaned voters? Yeah, that's ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center set up by Obama and crew that's handling all of the state, right? If you're having freeze things, just hit refresh. It happens every now and then. It's a tax system does on Rumble or YouTube. Anyway, isn't that weird that you have this organization, which I've done a lot of teaching about, ERIC, that handles all these voter rolls, and really interesting, they only have 5 people. And they handle all the data for the voter registration rolls, and they have no data people. Is that a coincidence that that organization kind of has the same setup as this one organization at the same time? Okay. Now, you can put a pin in that for a moment. Just put a pin in it for a moment. The guy that's leading this in Pennsylvania actually lives in Mesa, Arizona, where he's the vice mayor, I think, and he's a councilman. And his work was in a big activist organization, then the county recorder, and then he magically started this incredible nonprofit data-driven thing. Now, is that a coincidence? No. So what I did is I took a look at his field and media company and saying, okay, where does field and media get its money? Logical question. Somebody's funding this, right? So let's just follow the money. So it turns out that this field and media is funded by what is called the Everybody Votes campaign. Now remember, the lead of this organization is basically this fellow out of Mesa. He's tied into local politics, right in the big heart of the cartel stuff, right in the big heart of, where everything went wrong, right in the big heart of where we find all the disasters. So I'm going, wow, that's really interesting. So what I decided to do is, let me find out who's funding this. Well, what happens when you run that down? You find out that his primary funding is a campaign, right? That's referred to as Everybody Votes, but it's the Everybody Votes campaign, which is linked to what's called the Voter Registration Project. The Voter Registration Project. Now, when you look at their numbers and you try to find out, okay, what are the donations? What have you done as a business and where does it come from? You find out that they started in late 2015. They got their funding in 2016. Now, that's kind of interesting. Why is it that we keep on seeing this 2015 and 2016 recurring number popping up, which is exactly the time that President Trump came in, clobbered the system, right? They didn't want an outsider in. Well, this organization, Everybody Votes, was set up about that time. Now, this organization will tell you in their audited numbers and release that since their inception, just this is one organization, they have, now again, let's go back. This is the organization that funds Field and Media. We look at Field and Media in Pennsylvania and we find out 60% of their voter registrations were fraudulent. You can find every county they worked in. I'll talk about it in a moment. But when somebody really looked at it and looked at how the data comes into the system, you got to look at how the data comes into the system. They found out 60% of them, so 6 out of 10 were BS. Now, the organization that paid for that is this Everybody Votes campaign. Everybody Votes campaign brags that since 2016, they have put on 7 million new voters. Now, remember, Everybody Votes is kind of like every vote must count. Remember, it's the leaving out of a keyword, every legal vote must count. Get it? They put on 7 million voters. Now, this project that as it got revived back up. Long time ago, it used to be called Voting for America. It was kind of dormant. And so when this thing came back up, and they called it the Voter Registration Project, that's how it officially came in. How much money do you think they got injected into them right in? And I'm talking, they claim they put 7 million voters on the books. We now know how they distribute the money, which I'm taking you through. And we know that 60% of those voter registrations were bullshit, going by that one. So anyway, they took in $116 million. By the way, and that's just leading up to the 2020 election. They took in $116 million in that very short window, right? Right? Between 2016, Trump's in, and between 2020, Trump's out. They took in $116 million. And that $116 million, we're now tracing part of it to this guy in Mesa, Arizona, his Field and Media. So I look in, where are they running that same operation? Well, they're running that exact same operation. See if this kind of sounds familiar to you. Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Ohio, North Carolina, Virginia, and Nevada. Once again, Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Ohio, North Carolina, Virginia, and Nevada. They say their goal, for what their goal is to reshape the electorate, to reshape the electorate. So I'm going, wow. So it's not just Lancaster County or Hill County or whatever it is in Pennsylvania. That's just the one that got caught. That's just the one where people are paying attention. That's just the one where people weren't smothered by the pillow saying it was the machines, and they started really looking hard at the paper. So thank God for people in Pennsylvania and in Lancaster and stuff that goes, wait a minute, we're going to look really hard at the paper. And they caught these guys because they weren't smothered by a pillow. They weren't expecting other people to fix it. We caught them all. They said, we got to fix it ourselves. But even though they got these multiple counties in Pennsylvania, there's all these other ones that are out there. Now, if we look at this everybody votes, we're just going to kind of go one layer up. Again, I'll connect for you. We've got some organization that is a coinky-dink in Maricopa County, Arizona. The fellow is a political party member, maybe a vice mayor and a councilman. Ironically, he worked for the Maricopa County Recorder. Before that, he was with a large organization bringing in Hispanic vote. Somehow his team is in Pennsylvania, and it's not regular canvassing like citizens do to get votes. Those are the volunteers. No, these guys get paid. See, I think they use volunteers to do it. It's cover. These guys are paid to do it, and they have quotas. That money comes from this, voter project or Everybody Votes. But where does Everybody Votes get their money? So for this Everybody Votes or voter registration project, their money comes from the Open Foundation Society of George Soros. Yeah. What did you find with Doge? That our money, given our government, down to USAID, it was really USAID that was funding George Soros using our money. Well, yeah, the next level up is this George Soros Foundation. Right? Now, they try to hide a lot of their key funders. Who's the next funder in line that funds this larger organization other than George Soros? Well, it's the labor-aligned federations like the AFL-CIO, the labor unions. That's interesting. So I go, okay, I want to see all grants. I want to see all contributions. I want to understand everything. And I'm looking for those key windows, 2016 all the way through to 2024. And so other than George Soros and stuff, we find this thing called, and by the way, the numbers that Soros gave to them to get them started, $1,006,067 the first time, $1,235 the second time, $1,893 the third time. All of it leading up to 2020. But there was a very large tranche that also came in by something called the Proteus Fund. The Proteus Fund. Okay. Now, this was under the idea of a grant, and it was $2.5 million. $2.5 million. Well, you might ask, who is the Proteus Fund? So you look at this thing called the Proteus Fund, and it's in Amherst, Massachusetts. They call themselves a full-service philanthropy organization. They have distributed $250 million through 6,000 grants. But when we look at, okay, well, what is Proteus? Proteus funders themselves all fall into one theme category. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for the connective coinky-dink tissue. So if we look at this Proteus Foundation or Proteus Fund gave this Everybody Votes $2.5 million all in the same time window. Well, what does the Proteus Fund do? All of their grants are earmarked for democracy reform, radical justice, and disability rights. And it's a little bit better if it has stuff to do with LGBTQ or whatever it is, right? Now, you'll notice in their keywording what they do. They say their funds are the Piper Fund, the Rights, Faith, and Democracy Initiative, the Rise Together Fund, and the Solidarity Collaborative. Solidarity. You heard people that even said they were conservatives like Shiva, right? Solidarity, Workers Unite. It's all using communist themes. So what they do is they keep on filtering this through organizations. So again, this is big money going through. So I looked at the next one. The next one's called the Hopewell Fund. Hopewell Fund lists its voter registration project. So you got to kind of run these down. Who in the hell is the Hopewell Fund? Well, the Hopewell Fund is out of Washington, D.C. That's interesting. And it was set up just like all the other stuff for these monies for, field and media or all these other ones. Again, it was set up in late 2015, started taking money in 2016. Is that a coincidence? And their initiative is to launch quickly new, innovative social change projects. So that's another. Is that a coincidence? Well, who set up the Hopewell Fund? Well, the Hopewell Fund was set up by Arabella Advisors. You've heard that name before. Again, all culminating around this 2015 rally beginning in 2016. Well, I have to look at, okay, what changed then? Well, that's when President Trump got in office. The Hopewell Fund in 23 reported they had revenues of $157.7 million. They had expenses of $156.6 million, assets of $170 million. Okay, they got 163 employees. Again, all of these activities kind of all have the same thing. It's got to be women's issue, or to reduce healthcare disparities, or to change social domains, or what, right? Same thing over and over and over again. So I ask you the one question: is this a pattern when you continue to see these organizations dropping big dollars, and they all seem to set up about the same time? They all seem to support the same very far left-leaning issues. What I find really interesting is the infusion of money. It's not just all the different disconnected nonprofits or NGOs. It's when did the infusion of money occur? And all the infusion of money occurred when Donald Trump came into power. It 100% coincided with their biggest push being that 2020 endgame. Now, I've told you this before. I want to connect just one other dot so you understand. Way back during the Obama administration, the Obama administration thought our banks, specifically mortgage banks, were being unfair to people of color, right, etc., minorities. And so they forced the banks to meet a quota, sound interesting, that you've got to give a certain amount of minorities these loans, whether or not they qualify. So the banks did that. Well, all of those loans led to a collapse in the banks and the mortgage business. So Eric Holder, on behalf of the Obama administration, came in. They sued all the banks. Bank of America was one of them. Bank of America got sued for billions, had to pay multi-billion-dollar fines. But for the first time in history, an interesting thing happened is Eric Holder said, look, we'll give you like a 2-to-1 to a 3-to-1. So I'll use simple numbers here. Let's say Bank of America was fined $3 billion. Normally that money goes to the government. But in the Obama period and the Holder period, they said, we'll give you a 3-to-1. If you will make a donation to these organizations, we're going to give you a 3x credit, meaning, hey, take $1 billion only, not 3, and put it here, and it will be like you paid the $3 billion fine. I'm going to use some round numbers so you understand it. Now, any corporation that has a fine against them about the government, what are they going to say? I don't want to give it to those organizations. I don't want to donate to them. No, that's not how it's going to happen. And yes, it's kind of like extortion. So all of these banks paid those fines that way through Eric Holder. But there was a common denomination in this racket. First time it happened. And yes, I think it was a shakedown. But back then, that money went to places like Acorn. Remember them? What did Acorn get in trouble for? Falsifying voter registrations in cities, running campaigns, signing up people who never existed. Acorn was kind of run out of business. They just rebranded themselves and going. That's the fundamental change that the Obama administration promised. And that's why so much money and punitive things where it looks, oh, they're fighting the banks. He's fighting for the little guy. No, I think it's how they wash the money. I find it very interesting that when we have so much evidence of how that money was filtered and washed way back then, that we're seeing the exact same thing. The only thing that changed in it in a more significant way is they started appropriating bigger budgets for bigger needs, and they started doing it in a larger way through USAID. But even this stuff that just came down in Pennsylvania with the 7 charged, all of them have the same backstory. All of them came into financial windfalls with Trump going in and being inaugurated the first time. And they released those windfalls by, how'd they do it? What was the end goal? Yes, 2020. How'd they do it? Was it the machines? Hell no. Never was, never is. They basically falsified votes. They basically manipulate the system by a piece of paper. And so when you look at it in scale, the first guy who figured out how to do it and teed it up, Obama, you basically look over to that Biden FU, because that's what it is. And that's where they pulled out all the stops. But yes, Trump got in, right? Trump got in. And you see them adding to Kamala. Now, I want to add one footnote because you've heard me talk about the Smartmatic stuff that's going out. And I'm going to give you the newest change, right? The newest change that they're doing to morph that story. So you've got to watch the morphing of the stories. When the Smartmatic whistleblower BS crapola broke, and you heard about 30 white hats, anonymous white hats that saved the 2024 election. I told you that how do you save the election, make sure Donald Trump gets in, but you went ahead and ignored the down ticket, because that's what happened. They ignored the down ticket. We got our asses kicked as conservatives in the down ticket. And it's going to come back up. You watched people coming out change that story. Well, they were focused on the presidential vote. And so they made sure that the presidential vote, they morphed it, right? They just said they saved the election. And then they morphed it by saying, well, they saved the president vote. Well, I told you that, wait a minute, when that ballot, which is the vote, runs in, it's not the president goes here and an hour later the senator goes here and 2 hours later this goes there. That's not how it goes. It all hits the system at the same time. I did a special program on that, and I showed you how it all worked and how it's the entire thing. Well, the newest story that they're going to try to pull over you ready for this? Because I exposed, wait a minute, you're saying you saved the presidency, but you ignored everything else, and you know they're stuffing votes, and when we get to the midterms, we're going to get screwed, and they're going to impeach Trump. I called them out on it. The new excuse has just hit, and here's the new excuse. Ready? Well, they didn't stop votes from being changed. They just stopped the counts from being released. Again, I showed you how if you stop one, you stop all. If you're in, you're in. If they're swapping votes, they're swapping votes. Today, the wire is, well, what they really did is they stopped the vote tallies from getting out there. And so the system didn't know how many extra ballots they needed to put in. And that's why Trump won. I want you to be aware of that stuff because, number one, I want you to know all of those work in unison. And even if it's to stop the vote tallies from being seen, it means you're in the system, you know where the attack's coming from, you know where they're trying to get information, you know the information they need, and you stopped it, which means you documented them being there. So they're now trying to release, it's new this morning, well, we just stopped the tallies from being released. We have a huge psychological con going on right now to keep you on the machines and away from ballots and the voter rolls. And it's all BS. Please, 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 please share this program because, folks, we are in trouble if we do not get this fixed, and we've got to get it fixed right away. Love you all. Thanks for being here. Take care.
Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County Full Forensic Audit Archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now.
We'll fight for free and fair elections. Invent and scan the ballots of kinematic artifact detection. You love to read and learn, travel and explore. You're a fearless
braveheart patriot who's opened doors. You are courage, you're our voice. Jovan, we thank you for what you're fighting for. You're our warrior. You are brave like a lion. You're David fighting Goliath, couldn't ask for more. You're our warrior. Think of what you've done for you, for me, for our country. You'll go down in history as our warrior. By God and always do what's right. In the battle for our nation, you lead the fight. We pray for your safety, the armor of God to protect you from all of us. Here's a thank you for all that you do. You are courage, you're our voice. Jovan, we thank you for what you're fighting for. You're our warrior. You are brave like a lion. You're David fighting Goliath, couldn't ask for more. You're our warrior. Think of what you've done for you, for me, for our country. You'll go down in history as our warrior. Jovan, you're a hero we stand behind. We're inspired by the fire inside your eyes. American proud, we know you'll fight till your dying day, and we'll always stand behind you through everything. You are courage, you're our voice. Jovan, we thank you for what you're fighting for. You're our warrior. You are brave like a lion. You're David fighting Goliath, couldn't ask for more. You're our warrior. Think of what you've done for you, for me, for our country. You'll go down in history as our warrior.